Good to go. So, hello everyone. I think David said as well that he's sorry he couldn't make it, but we'll try and put on another webinar on the same topic in the next couple of weeks. But he's just been caught up in something pretty urgent. So that's
excellent. So let's get into it, Matt. It's efficient marketing for accountants and bookkeepers. I suppose I want to start with that first word, and efficient. And really, I think we need to clarify what we mean by that one.
Yeah, okay. And I'm just going to say, obviously, fire in your questions into the questions window. If you've got any questions for me, we've got a few questions that came in beforehand. And yeah, so we'll answer some of those, but keep your questions coming in, and we'll go through those. I think the first thing about efficiency for me is I was at XeroCon last week, and the big talk, you know, through the profession, through the industry, is all about automation, AI, machine learning, and all of these things. But I think the first part of efficiency is to first of all be doing the right things, because there's no point, you know, if you're not doing the right thing, there's no point automating it, there's no point making it efficient. It's still not the right thing. And I think when we're talking about that in terms of marketing, that means just having the correct strategy, having a clear, focused strategy. You know, the efficiency stems from that. You know, and I think what I would describe as a clear focus strategy is, if you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to nobody. So, you know, instead of trying to go after, you know, all business owners, all small businesses, or whatever in your area, it's about saying, who's my ideal prospect? You know, who's the kind of client that I really want to work with, and actually coming up with a plan to go after them. So I think that's the first part of efficiency, is actually you know, drilling down on who you want as clients. I don't mean necessarily niching your whole firm, but there must be a type of client that you really enjoy working with and is going to be profitable for you. So I think that's my number one criteria for efficiency, because that flows through into a whole bunch of other efficiencies then. So instead of trying to, you know, market to everybody and having a really scattergun approach, you know, you then can start saying, okay, well, I know who this ideal prospect is. I can start working out where they hang out. So, you know, where are they online? Where are they on offline? You know, can I go to events, conferences, and meet these people? You know, say you work with, say, cafes. You know, well, they're on your high street. You know, you can get in front of these people. So that before you even get to technology, I think that's the most efficient thing you can do, is have a really clear and focused strategy to build the rest of your marketing efforts on top of.
I think 100% right, and some of the other month of marketing presentations that you've done, Matt, are really on that theme. So I'd recommend people to have a look at some of the recordings of those about identifying your ideal prospect and the prospect map, where they are, etc. So there's a feeling out there that I suppose because our industry has been subjected to so much technological change, that one of the things that we want is everything to be automated, and it just happen, and we don't have to do any work. Mm-hmm. And I know you recently wrote a fantastic blog post on your site that I'd also recommend people to, about the ways to automate. But there's things that should be automated, and there's other things that we're still going to remember the essence of marketing. So mm-hmm. Automation, where is it?
Well, I think, you know, it clearly is a huge thing that's going to revolutionize the world of work. And who knows where that goes? You know, it's easy to take guesses. The keynote at XeroCon, the guy came out to a piece of classical music, which, according to him, was completely written by artificial intelligence. So, you know, that says to me, you know, if a robot can write a piece of complex music, that's going to take over a lot of tasks that we're able to do. I think there's a few things that, you know, right now can't be automated. I mean, who knows in the future, but certainly for the foreseeable future, I think, you know, someone had to tell that robot to go and write a piece of classical music. It had to give it a purpose. And I think going back to marketing and what you automate, you still have to, there's elements you can automate, and I think, you know, we'll obviously talk about that today. But you've still got to have a strategy. You know, you've still got to understand, you know, who you're trying to market to, what interests those people. You know, there's a whole lot of that kind of strategic work, which AI is, you know, a million miles off being able to do. And, you know, even if it were able to do it, it's not going to be available to the likes of me or you for quite a long time, until that kind of, if the cost of that technology would perhaps trickle down. And I think that, you know, the strength of the position of an accountant or a bookkeeper is that, you know, you're in the relationships business, and you know, as far as I know, yet that hasn't been able to be automated. People are still going to want to buy from people. They're still going to want to interact with people. So there's a whole element there of things that I think are ring-fenced for, you know, maybe forever, but certainly for the foreseeable future. Having said that, you know, that there are definitely some things that can be automated in terms of marketing, and I think that's, you know, just like we're being told, like, you know, maybe some of these bookkeeping functions are it's gonna be done by machine learning. Likewise, there's certain aspects of your marketing that you can hand over and put on autopilot. So I think things that work well there is basically just being smart and connecting together technologies. So, you know, if you, for example, post on your blog, there's no reason why that shouldn't post through to your social media or your email newsletter, for example. So I think connecting those dots like that, automating email. So, for example, you know, that's something that's been around for quite a long time, but still underused, I think, is where, you know, if somebody, for example, downloads something off your website, that you follow them up with a series of emails over a course of, like, you know, a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever, that nurtures that lead, and that's done automatically. And that's clearly something that there's no need for a human to be involved with, apart from that initial setup. So yeah, I think automation comes into marketing, and I think technology is always giving us an edge there. But I think there's certain aspects, yeah, that still need to have that human element.
Before we get into some of the questions we have on the tools, etc., I just want to a question, and you've mentioned already a couple of times about the importance of strategy. Peter Drucker, the famous management consultant, was oft quoted as saying that there are only two roles in a business: marketing and innovation. What he was talking about, when you extend out further what he wrote on that topic, was that the other two that really drive the success of the business. Yes, you've got to deliver. Yes, all the other aspects of the business. But if you don't have your marketing right, and if you're not looking at how to constantly change as your target market changes, then you're not going to survive. And I think sometimes we don't put marketing high enough up the chain of the things on our list of to-do, that we worry about what we're going to do for the client tomorrow, rather than worrying about the marketing of our firm that might be needed to be done next month or the next quarter. So it's just ranking that importance of marketing. And I know you've talked about strategy, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on that comment as well.
Well, for me, you know, like, marketing is most of a business, or at least any business that's still growing. You know, I mean, in a mature business where the model is pretty fixed, you know, that might deprioritize a little bit. But any business that's growing, marketing is just such a major part of it. And the yeah, and I think it's where marketing begins. That's the thing that I think that a lot of people think of marketing as like advertising or you know, just the functions that you do. And to me, that's the very end of marketing. Marketing really begins where you think about like, who are we there to serve? You know, what's the actual reason for existing as a firm? You know, who are the people we're going to try and serve? It's that whole business model part of your firm. So that's where marketing begins, and that's the bit that, you know, just cannot be automated. You've got to think that stuff out. It evolves over time, and then that very end part where you might, you know, send some emails out or post some stuff to social media. Yeah, for sure that can be automated, but it's got to sit on that bedrock of a solid understanding of your customers, their pain points, and the channels, then, you know, of how to reach them.
So one of the questions is a fairly open-ended question, but which marketing method works best?
Okay, yeah, I do get this question a fair bit, actually. Obviously, I'm going to answer it depends, but I think I mean, I'm going to repeat myself, which is to go back to say, okay, once you understand who you're going after, who's your ideal prospect, then the method that works best will depend on them. So, you know, to give an example, you know, if you're going after, say, millennial people, then, you know, as an example, there's going to be an election here in New Zealand where I live. The polls that are being done on that election are done through landline. So given that this election might swing on young people voting more, how many of them have got a landline? A lot of people don't. They just have a mobile phone. So are you going to, you know, cold call people on landlines if they're millennials? Probably a massive waste of time. You're going to want to use online marketing. Whereas I know a guy who markets to dental practices, and the most successful marketing method for him is sending direct mail to invite them to a seminar. And it says it costs him $200 to get somebody in the room, but the return on investment works for him. You know, he gets about 20% of the people come to those events will convert. So, you know, most people will say things like direct mail are dead. There's nothing that's dead, I would say. You know, even sometimes, you know, like print advertising can be really effective in certain niches. It's really about understanding who your prospect is and the things that are gonna the channels that are gonna work for them, because I think so often we put the cart before the horses and go, you know, I want to use search engine optimization, or I want to do social media, without actually questioning, like, is that the place where your market is? So it's flipping it on its head and going, okay, well, you know, where are the actual places that my prospective clients hang out? And then that's where your most effective marketing method's going to lie.
So you actually just at the end there touched on another question that's come in. What role does SEO have to play in all of this mix?
Generally, what I would say is probably less important than most accountants and bookkeepers give it credit for. I talk to a lot of accountants and bookkeepers, you know, and SEO is always seems to be a real hot topic. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know whether it's because like algorithm and number based, and that appeals to numbers based people. That's my little theory that I've asked a few people about, and they said that it did. The thing about search engine optimization, first of all, is that it's really hard, and so the amount of effort you're going to spend on that is quite large compared to other things. So if we're talking about efficiency, you know, efficiency to me, the main thing of efficiency is doing the right things. You know, I think it was Steve Jobs that said he was asked what he was most proud of at Apple, and he paused for a while and said, "Well, there's actually not. I'm not proud of one thing. It's the 1,000 things every day that we didn't do." I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like that. And I think that's the same with marketing. Is that on any given day, there's 100 things you could do that will have a positive effect on your business, but there's probably two or three of those things that are going to far outweigh everything else. It's 80-20 rule stuff. And I think that's the thing about SEO is that there's a whole amount of effort that you're going to have to put into that. And a lot of it's based on stuff that's very hard to influence, like how long your website's been around. If you're in a very competitive area, you're not operating in a vacuum with SEO. You're competing against all the other firms. Plus, Google's trying to monetize that first page of search results. So it's like advert, 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 map, then maybe a few results. Is it worth putting all that effort to get onto that page when you could drop off it because Google changes their algorithm? That happens. You could just drop off, and then you've done all of that. Let's say you've got to number one, that sort of coveted number one place. Are those the kind of leads you're going after? Because I think about the type of clients most accountants and bookkeepers I know want to work with. They're established businesses, and I think established businesses, the first thing they would do if they were looking for a new firm is ask people they know. They're going to have a network of other businesses, other professionals that they know. They're probably going to ask rather than just go and type it into Google. So, short answer is I think it has its place, especially if you're a commoditized type firm. And people are just going to compete on price. If you're a more sort of value-add firm, I would say there's other things that you would do far before that in terms of marketing, which would be number one, marketing to existing clients, asking them for more referrals. I think social media, particularly Facebook advertising, is going to get you in front of more of the right people, and email marketing has got the strongest return on investment of any online marketing, which is about $37 for every $1 spent, and that's before we've even talked about things like offline marketing, like networking events or putting on your own events, which I think will be eternally profitable for accountants and bookkeepers. So it's in the mix, but I'd put it probably a lot lower down than a lot of people think.
So people, please keep your questions coming. I've got a few more here of Matt, but please, if you've got any questions, put them in that question box. We would love to hear more. So another one that has come in is actually in respect of email that you just touched on right at the end of how successful email is. But this question is, how often should I email my database?
Probably more than you think is the kind of imprecise answer. I think generally what I see with accountants and bookkeepers, they just don't do enough marketing. Before we even talk about like the quality or efficiency or automation of that they just don't do enough. There's just a factor in marketing of you need to be seen a number of times before people act, and particularly with trying to, if you're marketing for new clients, you got to assume that most of them already have an existing relationship with an accountant or a bookkeeper. So we know that there's a lot of perceived pain in switching firm, and so that creates an inertia and a kind of reluctance to switch. So that means that people procrastinate, even if they're getting quite bad service. You've got to do a fair bit to try and get them to come over to you. So what that means is you've got to be in front of them, and often that means that you've got to be in front of them at the time that they're ready to engage you. because it's, you know, it's a marketing truism that people buy when they're ready, not when you want them to. So, you know, if we send an email out, we're always like, let's, you know, you want sales, you know, you want things to happen. Well, it rarely happens that way. So I would say, in terms of sending, you know, if we actually wanted to get to numbers, I'd be sending out an email newsletter once a month to my clients, partners, and sort of prospects who've ended up on that list, who you've met. I'd also be sending out what I would call an email blast at least once every month. So an email blast is you know, a commercial promotional email saying, okay, here's a service we offer. Are you interested? Because, you know, I think too often we think about like promoting the firm as a whole, but what people buy is not necessarily the firm. They're going to want a service off you, maybe, that hooks them in. So in terms of numbers, I'd be sending at least a newsletter once a month, and you might have a client newsletter and a prospect newsletter. I'd also be sending one email a month, an email blast that's saying, here's a product or service you can buy from us. Now that could be to existing clients, or it could be to prospects. But I'd be sending those two types of emails, one a month, every month.
So here's a fantastic question, different topic. How can I use automation to weed out bad prospects?
It's a really good question, actually. So I think the first thing that you're going to need to do there is it's having the right bit of software to do that. I mean, it's hard to say you could weed out bad prospects, because potentially you've got to speak to those people before you know that. What I think you can do is flag good prospects. So I guess what we're talking about here would be like lead scoring. And so what you'd have to do there is, I mean, again, this is an example of where automation works, but you still need the human element at the start, and that setup process is to go, what signals can I get through a website, or how someone's engaged online, and it's going to be typically online, or you know, you can factor calls into that if someone, you know, maybe keys that in, is to say, if said prospect has done these things, or said lead, then, you know, if make a score up. So, you know, they've downloaded an ebook from your website, give them 10 points. They've come to a webinar, give them another 10 points. They've looked at, you know, these pages on your website, that's 20 points. So, you know, and it could be that you go, okay, any leads over 50 points, we'll get straight on the phone to them, that kind of thing. I think in terms of bad prospects, I don't know how you would know that through automation right now, unless you, yeah, I just don't know how you would do that. But I think what you can do in terms of efficiency is perhaps if you know, we all have kind of prospects, leads, like tire kicker type people who follow you around, you know, and that you know, we all know those people, that you can flag those in your system, and that's just an efficiency to say, maybe don't contact these people very much, or whatever. But I don't know how you would, I don't know if you've got any ideas on that, Steve. I don't know how you would like use automation or whatever to actually discover bad prospects.
No, I think it's a case that some of the design of your emails, your website, and that will weed them out via the topics you're talking about. And I know, Matt, you and I have had a conversation that sometimes we always have an About Us page on our website, but sometimes it should be an About You as well, where we're actually talking about what the client is. So I think there's using those sort of tactics to help people, because even if they've checked out, you know, asked their friends for a recommendation, as I know you've said many times before, Matt, the website's role often is to seal the deal. Mm-hmm. And if they come and then check out and see the the about you as opposed to just about us, and they realise, well, actually, we're not necessarily a client. So I think it's sometimes setting up little hurdles like that to try to weed people out are just as effective as any of those other automation aspects. But I think lead scoring, as you were talking about, I think that's also really powerful, and I know you help your firms with to implement that in their marketing system. So a couple more.
Just quickly add to that. I think one of the things you can do, which is, you know, it's not automation necessarily, but one of the things I'd really recommend anyone does, and I think a lot of firms have this, is like templated emails. And so, you know, you want templated sales and marketing emails. And what that, you know, obviously it's good to have those as an efficiency thing. What they also do is make you think about your processes and go, okay, if we get somebody who, you know, we don't see as a really good fit with us, you should have an email that's like, you know, I don't know, it's not me, it's you type email, but, you know, kind of you know, but like a very polite, diplomatic email that says, look, thanks, but no thanks. And I think thinking about those things beforehand, when they come up and surprise you, it doesn't tempt you to sort of go and work with these unsuitable businesses. You know, you've got your structure, and having that pre-written, I think it gives you that confidence sometimes to go, this is my script, I'll stick to it, rather than just sort of falling back into that, oh, let's try and wing it, maybe work with these guys, let's see if it works out. It never does. And so having that templated sales and marketing emails in the background, I think is really useful.
Excellent. I got a couple more questions.
Yep.
So one is, I'm certainly getting some variety. Chatbots. There was recently a chatbot that was released by the name of Alan, and there was one by Sage last year by the name of Peg. Alan is by a company called Gapify, but which automates some of the core accounting function. But chatbots, should we be thinking about that for accountants and bookkeepers?
I think chatbots can be done really well. I mean, I don't think they're going to take over advice right away. I think it's like this, right? You know, I know I know plenty of really big cloud virtual firms, and you know, a lot of them still say most of our clients come locally, even though they could be completely international or national or whatever. People still like the fact that their accounts are done by somebody who they can see their office and trust, and that's just a human thing, right? And so I think the way I see chatbots is almost like, say, on a website or on your Facebook page, it's sort of like a customer services triage kind of system where somebody can come in and ask them some basic questions. How can we help you today? It could be, you know, I'm a client, okay, you know, what's your issue with tax? Okay. And they could go through some pre-programmed stuff. It could learn a little bit. And then maybe what it does is, once that gets too complex, like, do you just want to talk to somebody? Yes, that's all good. So maybe not pretending that it's, you know, there's the idea you could get a chatbot to pretend to be a human. I think it's better if you don't pretend that, but you create a really great experience. You know, dealing with the IRD actually in New Zealand, so the government tax body in New Zealand, they got a pretty good voice automated system. It's clearly not, you know, it's not a real person. It's a real, you know, it's a real voice, but it just goes through steps to get you to the right department. And it's actually really handy. You know, you give your details in, you know you're being dealt with by a robot, but it's efficient, so you don't mind. But I don't think that then replaces that part where you go and meet with somebody and all of that stuff, because that's not just transactional. There's that element where we're social creatures, and I think people still want to meet with somebody, and that element of trust, I think is still important.
So this question, I know you could probably spend the next hour answering. You mentioned way back at the outset about some of the tools that could be used to assist in automating. So thoughts on tools, and I appreciate that's such an open-ended question, but if you could give insight in some of the tools to help make a marketing more efficient.
Yeah, sure. So without sounding like a stuck record, tools are just tools, right? You've still got to be doing the right work. So first of all, yeah, okay, let's assume you're doing the right work, the right marketing work. Then I guess the kind of tech stack I would be looking at, and we can talk about some actual brand names, but I think that the bottom of what you need is a CRM, customer relationship management software. And that's where a lot of your kind of really good automation can sit. So you can take like a really simple CRM, which is like some of the ones that the software vendors offer, either for free or a low cost. That they kind of got CRM functionality in them. Or then you go for like a simple one, something like ActiveCampaign or Pipedrive, like a sales CRM like that. Or maybe something more complex like Insightly or Zoho, or top-end stuff like Salesforce, which is potentially pretty complex for a small firm to get going with. Or you've got kind of marketing type CRMs like Infusionsoft and HubSpot as well. So I think you need something like that where you've got lead data and customer data in there. Potentially your customer data is in your practice management software. So maybe you just want a more simple sales-based CRM. And so that's a really important tool because you want all your other tools to feed into that. That's sort of like the center of your sales and marketing universe. And in there, so when you're picking one of those, you obviously want one with a really good API that links into your other tools. And you're going to want to put some of that kind of template stuff in there, like template emails and workflows as well, so that when you deal with, for example, a lead that you're going to have a sales meeting with, there's a workflow that happens there. And I think we've not really talked about that, but obviously systems and processes are what really make you efficient. The tools just make the systems and processes a little bit more efficient. You've got to have the smart system in the first place, and again, that's a human thing to work out. So you got your CRM, and then I think you got certain other things around that. So I think you need a website. You need a website for sealing the deal with referrals, like we talked about, and that's going to be where a lot of your content might sit. And that's obviously going to want to talk to things like your CRM, email marketing software. So that's essential in the mix as well. So software where you can send a newsletter, an email blast, like a one-off email, and automated emails as well. So for example, a course, like a marketing course, or that could be used for like onboarding a new client. Other tools I would suggest, social media management tool. So blog post that I wrote recently, we'll send that in the follow-up email after this. Talked about a tool called Edgar, or Meet Edgar. Horrible name, really good product. And actually it was Steve who put me onto that. So what that does is, if you think with social media, when you post to, let's say, your Facebook stream, there's only a tiny amount of people who are going to see that. So say you've got 500 followers. At any one time, only a few of those are going to see that post. And if that's something that's, what I call like evergreen content, not particularly time sensitive. So say you're promoting a product, you're going to want people to see that over time. So what Edgar does is you put your content in it once, and it repeatedly posts to your social networks. So that's your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your Twitter. It can even be, I think, what Google Plus, if people use that, whatever. But your main three, and you build a content queue, and that pushes out your content, and I know for Steve, you put me onto it. That really helped grow your Twitter following, didn't it? And it's certainly been a big help for us, particularly on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Well, I have got the Revolutionary Firm podcast, and it's been a huge aspect behind the growth of that. The podcast is a useful marketing medium for our market. As you said earlier, it's all about finding what medium works for your market, and Meet Edgar's allowed me to remind people, so to speak, of new episodes, all the rest of it. So, absolutely.
So I think, yeah, and maybe other social media tools you might want might be things, like Buffer, Hootsuite. They do some of that functionality, but I'd probably say Edgar's, would be more than enough. But something to manage your social media so that you're not sort of posting individually into each network. You want something that posts once and it goes out to multiple. A few other tools, I suppose. Then that'd be your main tech stack, I think, for marketing. You might be doing Facebook ads or Google ads, so you'd be using those platforms to do that stuff. You'll want Google Analytics to track your website statistics and see what's happening there, and you can even do things like conversions in there. It's probably, there'd be major tools that you'd be using. And then I think it's not so much a tool, but you're gonna have to, you want content to fuel all of that. Obviously the tools themselves are just they're tools. You need something to do with them, and that's mainly going to be content. So blog content, what I would call lead magnets. So having a piece of content on your website or to give away that's valuable enough for someone to give you their email address in return. That's really important because most people who visit your website aren't ready to engage you. They're just in research mode. So having something valuable like that, you get their email address, you keep talking to them, and like I said earlier, then you're top of mind when they become ready to engage. So, I think there's either, you can create that stuff in-house, you can engage a freelance writer, or like a specialist content agency like Bizink, who can create that kind of content too. So yeah, I guess that would be my basic tech stack. Oh, one more tool I'd throw into the mix there, Canva, C-A-N-V-A. We'll put the links in the email. Really cool for creating sort of like beautiful looking social media posts and that kind of thing, and it kind of makes uncreative people seem like really good designers, so it's really good.
Yeah, I love Canva as well. So as people would have realised, Matt probably could have kept going there and gave you the whole range from the simple and low and easy up to the more complex of those tools. So yeah, fantastic answer, and I appreciate there was a lot more in that. There's been a question here. If we accept that advisory services is where the future of accounting is, then what role does technology play in this? I'll have a comment, and then Matt, you can go on this one as well. I think the real aspect here of advisory services, and there are a plethora of apps that can help you significantly, but I think go back to a point that Matt made earlier, we are in the relationship business, and it's actually the insights that come out of using those tools that are valuable to the business owner. And I think therefore we've got to always remember that if we want to get a premium positioning and a premium price, I think we can never sacrifice the personal conversation, whether it's using technology like we are now or whether it's literally across the coffee table. I think true advisory, it's actually the insights coming out of some of that fantastic reporting. Technology has a role to play, but I think it's a tool on the tool belt. The actual value sits in you taking that information and providing the insights to the clients. So your thoughts on that one, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't massively have anything to add to that. I think, like I said all along, it's all about the It's all about the insights that underlies it. Tools are tools. There'll always be new ones that come along, and you know, there's certain ones that are better than others. But you know, I think back to my first accountant. Well, actually, not my first, second accountant. I left my first one because they wouldn't they wouldn't do proper advisory for me. And this is going back to the early 2000s, and you know, it was all Excel. But he is one of the best business advisors I've ever met. So he had none of these modern tools, but you know, super switched on guy, would tell me like it is, you know, and massively helped me in my business. So you know, those things would make his job a lot easier now. It would have made things look a lot nicer, and you know, we had this heinous Excel spreadsheet that we used to do to work out all different kinds of things. So that's made that easier, but you know, I don't think it necessarily would have made his advice any better. It's just a better tool for delivering that.
I think one of the tools that I'm actually looking at for anybody who's really interested in is actually Microsoft Power BI. I think that's actually going to be huge. But again, it's the conversations that really matter. So the next question that's here is, how do you differentiate between sales and marketing? I think possibly I would probably say marketing's attracting the ideal client. Sales is then putting a proposal in front of them and gaining commitment. But I'll get your thoughts on that, Matt, as well.
Yeah, I guess it's like it's a bit like a Venn diagram, right? You know, it's, you know, they've got their separate spheres, but they overlap, and I think particularly now those things aren't siloed as much. I think if you see your most successful salespeople now are doing some of the marketing functions, and your best marketing people would just as easily be able to get up and do a sales demo. And I think, you know, that's one of the I'm not going to say it's a requirement of Bizink, but like everybody in, you know, I hope in our team, even on the kind of production side of the business, would be able to sell the product, you know, should be able to be behind what you're doing, understand the value of it, and be able to communicate that to somebody. So I think that they overlap a big, to a big degree, you know. Maybe a real example of that would be really good salespeople are, you know, they're on social media, they're interacting with their clients where those, or their prospects, where those prospects are. So, you know, they're not just waiting for sales demos to drop in their lap and doing those and doing the normal follow-up. You know, they're networking with people, whether that's in, you know, the real, well, you know, it's all the real world, but if that's face-to-face or that's over social media. And so, you know, is that marketing or is that sales? I think it's all business development, isn't it? You know, so I think, yeah, you know, they massively overlap, and I think, you know, there's probably strict marketing functions, which would be like, you know, preparing an email newsletter or, you know, writing content. But, you know, again, salespeople should be able to do that stuff. You know, they're the people who actually are talking, they're interfacing with the clients and prospects the most. So they tend to be hearing like the pain points and objections that you're going to have to your service and your offering. You know, even if you know, you don't have a BDM or salesperson in your business, you need those two functions to be talking to each other, because they can both help each other out a whole lot. Excellent.
So I think there are all the questions. If anybody else has got any other question, more than happy. But thank you, everybody, for the questions. Thanks, Matt, for the fantastic information. More than happy if anybody throws any more in, but I'll just talk about a couple of quick things. On Facebook group, there's Bizink's Ascend group, which is also can help you on more marketing support. So please, people, check that out. I think you'll find it very valuable for you, the conversations. And also, this is part of Month of Marketing, and there are some prizes on offer. So monthofmarketing.com/prizes. There's a potential to be part of Revolutionary Firm program, and there's also the potential to get your website upgraded, refreshed by Bizink. So, and then there's a couple of other things as well. So please check out the marketing.com/prizes for how to potentially enter on those. The next session is Create a 90-Day Marketing Plan by Matt, and that's on the Monday the 25th for the US time zone. I see we have a number of Canadian and US people on this at the moment, and Tuesday the 26th of September for Australia and New Zealand. So same time, but it's just we're ahead of the rest of the world. Anyhow, so thank you, Matt. Anything that you'd like to say just in closing on this topic of efficient marketing and the month of marketing?
No, I guess just a couple of things would be, one, thanks very much to everyone for coming along and your questions. The second thing would be the session that's on screen now, creating a 90-day marketing plan. That is really about creating a really efficient marketing plan system for your firm. So if you can make it along to that one, that would be great. We've done 3 sessions prior to that one, which is about defining your ideal prospect, creating your USP, and your prospect map. So if you want to go back and look at those, monthofmarketing.com, click through the sessions and you'll find them, the recordings in there. And there's a workbook as well that will be available to download. I think it's on those pages as well. If it's not, we'll get it up there. And so that will really help you create, before you get to all the tools and all of that stuff, really hone in on, who you should be marketing to and how to do that, because that's going to give you the biggest efficiencies. And then the icing on the cake then is to just get into the right tools and all of that kind of thing. And we'll cover a bit of that in the 90-day plan session on Monday or Tuesday, depending where you are.
And I know one of the questions was about the sales. The session after Matt's that I'll be doing later in the week is actually on powerful proposals. So that's when the nitty-gritty hits. Matt and his team have helped you attract the ideal clients, and then now you're sitting across the desk from them. How do you present a powerful proposal? So that'll be another session. But check out monthmarketing.com and you'll see the time. So look forward to seeing everybody then.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thank you.